you can manage your categories and labels for apps in APM with the New Relic REST API. In this tutorial, you'll learn how to use the REST API Explorer to list, create, and delete your categories and labels for APM. You may want to open a tab in your browser to the REST API Explorer by going to rpm.newrelic.com/API/explore right now so you can follow along. When you see this prompt appear on the screen, just pause the tutorial and try out the feature being introduced with your data. If you have a lot of apps to manage or a lot of changes to make to existing categories and labels, you can use the REST API to list, create, and edit, remove, or delete categories and labels. Here I am on the REST API Explorer. I'll select the REST API key for my account from the drop-down menu in the upper left corner, which will automatically populate the API key field. If you don't see an API key option, it most likely means you aren't already logged into your APM account or that you don't have sufficient permissions. You must be the account owner or admin to use the account's REST API key to act on categories and labels in APM. For more information about this, check the doc site under the topic APIs in the section REST API v2 on the page Getting Started. Now that I've selected my account API key, I'll scroll all the way down to the bottom of the menu on the left and click on the tab Labels. Here I have the option to view a list of existing categories and labels in my APM account and create or delete categories and labels. I'll start by clicking on Get to see a list of my existing categories and labels. Back up at the top, I can see that I have an option to paginate my results in order to limit the number of responses per page or the number of pages. This is especially helpful for very large data sets. However, the data I'll be requesting won't require pagination, so I'll just click Send Request. Now I can see a complete list of all the categories and labels in my New Relic account. Here you can see the JSON response format. The key shows me the complete category and label name, with each broken out separately below. Under that, there's a list of the app IDs by health status. Right now, I have 3 apps with a green health status. Finally, there is a list of all the apps that currently have this category and label assigned. I notice that there are 4 here, which means there is 1 app without an associated alert policy. It's important to understand this format so you can use the API Explorer to create new categories and labels. I'll click Create next and scroll up to the text field. Here I see a JSON template where I can add my new category and label. I'll do that now, and then I'll add the IDs for the apps I want associated with my new category and label. If you have a lot of apps, you may want to first get a list of all your apps and related data. To do this, scroll up to the top of the list and select Applications, then click on Get List. You can use the filtering and sorting options provided, and then click Send Request to get a complete list of all applications in your APM account. Okay, now I have identified all the apps I want to add this new category and label to, and I've got my JSON formatted. So I'll click Send Request. And now I get a warning that submitting the request will operate on your production data. Do you want to continue? Since I do want to do this, I'll go ahead and click OK. And I see confirmation of success. There are a few cases where you may want to delete a category and label for reasons other than, or in addition to, simply wanting to delete a category and label from your account. Specifically, if you want to edit an existing label or remove a label from an app, you will need to use the REST API delete endpoint. So let's say I intended to create the category and label group:production web and forgot to include a dash between production and web. To fix this, I first need to delete group production web. I'll click the delete option under the labels section and scroll up. All I really need to do here is enter the category and label I want to delete. I get my success response, along with JSON that tells me which apps had that category and label removed. Now I can recreate the corrected version, group:production-web, and assign it to the apps I want. Similarly, if you want to remove a label from an app, you would use the same process. Delete the category and label you want to remove apps from, and then recreate it and add it to the apps you want it assigned to. Now that you know how to use the REST API to manage your APM categories and labels, take a moment to identify the categories and labels you will need to add or create, and then try it out.